Hey guys, welcome back to The Readers. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is Pro-Revenge Story. I was working at our overseas office in Singapore last year, handling various business expenses. Our receipts were naturally in Mandarin and local dialects. These expenses covered typical office needs, printer supplies, equipment, cleaning services, and marketing materials. In March 2024, we got a new regional VP, Kayla Chen, who operated from our headquarters in Los Angeles. She implemented this innovative idea to hire a translator to verify all our receipts, supposedly to prevent any fraudulent claims. The concept seemed reasonable, but the translator they hired, Miss Lin, turned out to be incredibly difficult to work with. We had to send all our expenses to her first, and she would translate them before submitting for reimbursement. "This scan quality is unacceptable," she'd email me repeatedly, usually after I'd already discarded the original receipt. "Send me a clearer image." One day, regarding a $250 purchase of printer cartridges, she messaged me, "Why didn't you order from printersplus.com?" "They were out of stock," I replied. "We needed the supplies immediately." "You're being wasteful with company resources," she shot back. "Your job is to translate the receipt, not critique our purchasing decisions," I responded firmly. "If you want your expenses processed, you need to show more respect," she threatened. "You're overstepping. You're a translator, not an executive making procurement decisions," I told her. After this exchange, she became extremely pedantic about my expense reports. One morning in May, I called her early to attempt reconciliation. "You made a mistake by antagonizing me," she said smugly. "Either your reports are flawless or they won't be processed. Keep this up, and you might find yourself looking for new employment," I warned. "Good luck with that," she laughed before hanging up. During our July corporate meeting in LA, I found myself at a bar with Kayla, our VP. After some small talk, I steered the conversation toward expenses. "What's our typical monthly reimbursement for the Singapore office?" I asked casually. "Usually between $3,000 to $4,000, Kayla replied. "That's all?" I feigned surprise. "Yes, it rarely exceeds that amount." "How's Miss Lin performing?" I inquired. "She's doing fine," Kayla nodded. "How many fraudulent claims has she uncovered?" For context, our team members were well-compensated professionals. Expense fraud would have been remarkably foolish. "What do you mean?" Kayla asked. "Well, she was hired to verify expense legitimacy, right?" I continued. "Has she caught any suspicious claims?" Kayla thought briefly. "Actually, none that I can recall." "What's her monthly compensation?" I pressed. "Around $2,800 depending on workload." "Does it make financial sense to pay someone $2,800 to verify $3,000 in receipts?" "She prevents fraud," Kayla defended. "But she hasn't found any in 9 months," I countered. "If monthly expenses consistently stay between $3,000 $4,000, isn't that already a good indicator? Couldn't we just hire a translator as needed if something looks unusual?" I could see Kayla processing this. "Think about it. We could save nearly $45,000 annually. That would look impressive on your cost reduction initiatives," I suggested, knowing that VP bonuses were heavily tied to profit margins. Kayla's expression changed noticeably. 2 weeks later, we received an email announcing that all expenses should be submitted directly to administration and Miss Lin's services were no longer required. The next one is an entitled people story. I've lived in my house for almost 15 years now. It's a nice place in a quiet neighborhood. Not too fancy, but comfortable with a long driveway that can fit about 4 cars end to end. For most of those years, things were peaceful. I kept to myself. Neighbors kept to themselves. That all changed when the house next door sold about 2 years ago. The new neighbors seemed nice enough at first, a couple in their 40s with 2 teenage kids. We exchanged pleasantries. I brought over some cookies as a welcome gift, and they invited me to their housewarming party. I couldn't make it because of work, but I thought it was a nice gesture, if only I had known what was coming. About 3 months after they moved in, I noticed they started having a lot of gatherings. Nothing wrong with that. People are allowed to have friends over. But then they started using my driveway without asking. At first, it was just 1 car, and I figured maybe they thought it was okay since I wasn't using the whole driveway. I knocked on their door and politely mentioned that I'd prefer if their guests didn't park in my driveway without asking first. "Oh, sorry about that," the husband said with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Won't happen again." But it did happen again. The very next weekend, 2 cars in my driveway. I knocked again, reminded them of our conversation. This time, the wife answered. "It's just for a few hours," she said with a dismissive wave. "Your driveway is so big and you're not even using it all." I was a bit taken aback by her attitude but tried to remain calm. It's still my property, and I'd appreciate it if you'd respect that. She rolled her eyes but agreed. The cars were moved within the hour. This back and forth continued for a few months. Sometimes they'd ask permission, usually last minute. Sometimes they wouldn't. I tried to be accommodating when they asked, figuring that's what good neighbors do, but the situation kept escalating. The breaking point came during a holiday weekend. I had gone to visit my sister who lives about 3 hours away, planning to stay overnight and return the next day. When I got home around noon, I couldn't believe my eyes. My entire driveway was filled with cars. Not just a couple. 11 cars were parked bumper to bumper along my driveway, with one blocking the entrance to my garage. I couldn't even pull into my own property. I was livid. I walked next door and could hear music and laughter coming from their backyard. They were having some kind of massive party. I knocked loudly, and the husband answered, beer in hand. "Hey, neighbor, what's up?" he said cheerfully, as if nothing was wrong. "What's up is that there are 11 cars in my driveway and I can't even get into my own house," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Oh yeah, we're having a family reunion. We ran out of space and figured you wouldn't mind since you were away." "I do mind. I'm back now and need access to my property." He shrugged. "Well, everyone's having a good time. Can't you park on the street for a few hours? The party will be over by tonight." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "No, I can't park on the street. It's my driveway, and I want all those cars off my property within the next 30 minutes. "Don't be so uptight," he said with a laugh. "It's just a driveway." That was it. I'd had enough of being nice. 30 minutes or I'm calling to have them towed, he scoffed. "You wouldn't do that." I walked away without another word, went back to my car, and called the towing company I had looked up after one of our earlier incidents. I figured this day might come eventually. I explained the situation, confirmed with them that I had the legal right to have unauthorized vehicles removed from my property, and they said they'd send someone right away. 20 minutes later, a tow truck arrived. By this point, the husband had clearly realized I was serious because he came rushing over, red-faced and angry. "You can't do this!" he shouted. "Actually, I can. It's my property, and these vehicles are trespassing. I gave you a chance to move them." The tow truck driver asked me to sign some papers, and they started hooking up the first car. The husband ran back to his house, and within minutes, people were streaming out of their backyard, frantically trying to move their cars. It was chaos. Some cars got moved, but the towing company still ended up taking 4 vehicles before the rest were cleared. The aftermath was ugly. The neighbors were furious. They had to pay to get their cars back from the impound lot, which I heard cost them a pretty penny. They started a campaign against me in the neighborhood, telling everyone I was unreasonable and mean-spirited. A few neighbors who had attended their party gave me the cold shoulder for weeks, but I wasn't done. I decided to take it a step further. I called a local surveyor to come out and officially mark the boundaries of my property. Turns out the neighbors had been letting their kids use about 3 feet of my side yard as part of their play area. Once I had the official survey, I installed a fence right on the property line, reclaiming every inch of my land. The best part? I discovered that their fancy new shed was actually about 8 inches over the property line. I could have made them move it, but instead I filed the information away for future leverage. For the next few months, they gave me nasty looks, but otherwise kept their distance. Then one day, the husband knocked on my door. He seemed humbled. "Look, we got off on the wrong foot," he said. "The shed is over the line, and I know you know that. What will it take to make things right?" I thought about it for a moment. "A written agreement about parking, for starters, and you need to move the shed or pay me rent for the land it's on." He didn't like it, but he agreed. We drafted a simple document stating they would never use my driveway without explicit written permission at least 24 hours in advance. For the shed, they decided to pay me a small annual fee rather than move it. Things have been relatively peaceful since then. They still have parties, but their guests park on the street or in their own driveway. The fence stands as a physical reminder of boundaries, and the agreement sits in my filing cabinet as a legal one. Looking back, I wish I hadn't let things escalate so far before taking action. I should have been firmer from the beginning, but some people only understand consequences, and sometimes you have to be the one to deliver them. Oh, and that annual shed fee? I donate it to the local animal shelter. At least something good came out of this whole ordeal. The next one is a malicious compliance story. So I am telling this story because the friend involved recently died from a short but valiant battle with cancer. She went from the doctor saying, "Well, we need to do a biopsy, it's probably nothing," to a call from her 5 weeks later saying she was going into hospice care with just a few days to live. But saying goodbye brought up some tough memories, and a funny one. I decided to go to a meetup a different friend from work suggested I might enjoy. A tiki club that met weekly, but not only at tiki bars. 50s style diners were also part of the club. It was at a local dessert place with a 50s diner flair that also serves some good coffee. I think this is my second or third meetup with them, and it is a good group. Several of them rode motorcycles or even Vespa scooters as I did, an old 70s Honda CB 554-4. I sit down with my coffee and am talking with one of the guys who just bought a new Triumph Bonneville when someone comes up to the table, sits down and takes a drink of my coffee. What the actual duck? I look over and it was, to my utter astonishment, Wayward. Wayward, which was her nickname, was an old girlfriend. We had a short but enjoyable summer together after I graduated from HS, and she was working before going off to college. She went off to college, me to the Navy, and we lost track of each other, this being the days before the internet. I had been married for 15 years at this point and had a child. While she was single, it was a strange but platonic friendship that revolved around the meetup club. The dessert diner was a favorite, and every time I would get a coffee, she would steal it and drink from the other side. It was a thing we had. It was a good way to get out of the house as I worked from home, and that could be isolating, but it was not without its problems. One of the older women in the club was a real attention whore and instigator. She really did not like Wayward, who wasn't out there causing her problems, but Wayward did a lot for the club, and it showed up Miss Attention Slut. My wife, well, she had no interest in the club, and she saw it as a chance for her to hang out with her friends down the street or have them over. She thought the thing with Wayward was cute and charming. My wife has 0 jealous bones in her body and cannot stand attention whores. She laughed when I told her the latest Miss Attention Slut's antics. Oh, and a true redhead's temper. So several years of friendship and the club go by with various amounts of harassment and whispered rumors by Miss Attention Slut. It was the yearly club planning dinner, and Miss Attention Slut had had more than her share of box wine. Wayward, who got tied up with a patient and was late, came in after the dinner and gave me a hug. Miss Attention Slut said in a loud stage whisper to everyone, "Gee, I wonder what Miss Raccoon would think of that. Maybe someone should tell her." I saw red. I pulled out my phone and speed dialed my wife. "Oh, you have something to say to my wife, do you, Miss Attention Slut? Let me help you out here." I put it on speakerphone. "Hey, honey, someone here has something to say to you about me and Wayward." "Oh, hand me over to her, dear." And when Miss Attention Slut tried to say something, Miss Raccoon let her temper fly. She read her the riot act, mocked her, ripped her up one side and down the other, and told her to keep her nose out of other people's business if she liked the way it looked. She would never hurt anybody, but it sounded like she would, and that was what counted. The club heard it. It grew silent. Miss Attention Slut was imitating a fish out of water. She was turning even pinker than the wine could account for, and Miss Attention Slut was imitating a fish out of water making ah sounds. Then my wife started to laugh, which her laugh is very infectious. Other people started to laugh. Miss Attention Slut started to really turn pink, then ran out of the room. A 60-year-old woman crying like a toddler. Well, in the spirit of the Tiki Club, here is to you, Wayward, fair winds and following seas. Down's the last of his Mai Tai. The next one is an entitled people story. Recently, my best friend showed me some videos he found of people reading my posts on YouTube for content, and they just ranted, over-exaggerated half of everything I said and completely skipped over numerous things. They even complained that I put in too much detail. To be honest, I laughed my ass off seeing them rant. I'm not going to say they're wrong about me detailing too much, because they weren't. I wouldn't say I'm so big of a talker in person, but through a keyboard, all bets were off. One of the few things I was kinda angry about was when they tried to call BS on the dugout fort I made in the woods when I was 11, and they kept saying I was 8. Come on guys, get your details right if you're going to rant about something, or someone you only know through a Reddit account. Also, that fort was a hole, dug in soft forest dirt. It's not like I needed a jackhammer when digging it out, and I worked for weeks on it. Any determined kid in reasonably good shape with even the most basic of tools could have built that fort. But if they hated how descriptive I was and how much I mentioned my bike or genders of people I know, then why were they even reading it on air, if not for views and a reason to gripe at a man they've never met? Also, they uploaded another video about my post about my old college roommates. They kinda acted like I was being a jerk over the spaghetti dinner I made for my roommates when we made a deal that they'd each kick in $5 and they reneged on paying me. I was piss poor at the time, guys. After bills and food costs, I was very lucky if I had even $50 to my name at the end of each month. I had to take odd jobs to get extra cash when I needed it. Do any of them know those kinds of financial struggles? Something tells me no. So I'd say it was more than fair that I not only griped about $15, but also blackmailed them into paying me $60 each when they threw out all my food and stole my game systems. Anyway, since I came back for this, I may as well tell the last thing thus far that happened with my ex-wife. A couple months ago, I closed on a one-bedroom condo that I got for an excellent price. The ones selling it were an elderly couple that were moving to Arizona, and their son is a co-worker of mine. The condo is fairly outdated, but it's in good shape, with a surprisingly large closet I can fit my bike into. The condo is slightly farther from my work than the apartment I was renting before, and I had to buy my way out of my prior lease. But the condo was too nice a deal to pass up. And it's in a bit of a safer area, so I've taken to riding my bike to work sometimes, even though I'm kind of afraid of getting hit by a car. And I've been getting into better shape thanks to the extra riding. I also had to replace my bike's crank axle caged bearings because the original ones didn't hold up. But otherwise, it's still more or less exactly how it looked in the picture I posted a while back. As for my condo, I expected my narcissistic estranged mother to contact me about it because she'd naturally want something from me when I get a leg up in life. But it was my ex who contacted me instead. I guess she'd been stalking my social media or something. Not surprised about that. I'd been living in the condo about 3 weeks when I got an evening phone call. I was playing video games and answered my phone by reflex. As soon as I knew it was her, I turned on the recording app on my phone and told her I was recording. She didn't care one bit and sounded very drunk. I'd dealt with her bad drinking many times, and the more drunk she is, the more childish she is. She once got so drunk that she got in a whose assets are bigger, smaller fight with some random woman at a bar. And when I got her home, she kept trying to walk into the neighbor's house, and I had to forcibly drag her into our place, where she vomited all over me, and I had to clean myself and her up before making her go to bed. And I had to stay up for another hour to make sure she didn't try to get up and try to walk off, which happened a few times before. She woke up half naked on the floor of the kitchen once, and another time woke up in the backyard when it started raining. I don't think I should describe in detail the worst time here, due to certain objects being in certain places when she somehow woke up hungover in her car. I had to bring out a blanket to wrap her in, and thankfully no neighbors saw. But all that crap was mild compared to the other stuff she put me through while we were married. Back to the phone call, I pointed out to my ex that she and I don't really have anything left to do with each other and asked what she wanted. She went on a drunken rant about me buying the condo. She kept talking about how her life is crap, she has debt she's paying off alone, she got written up at work, she had to sell her BMW to save money, has to drive some crappy old used car now. No, she didn't elaborate on what kind of car, year, or a model. But she's always loved BMWs. She keeps losing friends. The guy she was dating recently dumped her, and she hates her apartment because it's small and her neighbors suck. And here I am with a great condo she'd strangle someone to be living in. I told her none of that really had anything to do with me, and then she insulted me and told me I left her all alone after I caused her mother to keel over from a heart attack. I reminded her that she admitted in the divorce why she was really married to me, and I wasn't going to remain trapped in a marriage where I was getting used for my wallet all the time. Then I pointed out it's because of her entitled attitude that she can't keep a man or a friend in her life. She lost it on me, and I could barely understand anything she was saying. I hung up on her, and she started texting me like mad. I just shut the phone off for the night and let her fume. The next morning, I turned my phone on to get a flood of messages and texted her back that if she won't leave me alone, I'd look into filing for a restraining order. She just texted me back a middle finger. But then that evening, she called me while drunk again. I bluntly told her I was recording her again, and I did not want to talk to her. She told me to shut up, and she was going to get her rant in. I hung up just before she finished that sentence. She immediately called back. I answered, and let her go on for about 10 seconds before hanging up again. So she went back to texting. She admitted she was jealous AF I bought the condo and that her life shouldn't suck right now when mine is doing better than ever. I pointed out that the only one screwing up her life is her. She ruined our marriage, and she knows it. I wasn't surprised how she kept losing people since she's so toxic. She texted back that she wasn't toxic, just misunderstood. I texted several laughing emojis and then let her have it. I reminded her about how she'd tricked me into marrying her, how she used me, lied to me, was financially controlling to me, put me down so much, let her mother put me down so much, and didn't give a crap about my key collection being stolen by her mother when she knew it was my pride and joy. She just used me for financial security. I'd say that's pretty damn toxic. There was just no point in trying to save a marriage as doomed as ours was, especially since she blamed me for her mother's death. I didn't unalive the old witch. Her mother's fast food addiction and hoarder house that was filled with decades-old garbage, rodent infestation, and black mold did her in. The only thing I was to blame for was reporting the house, which was a danger to her and everyone around her. My ex texted back a crying emoji, then an anger emoji, then a middle finger emoji followed by a poop emoji. I sarcastically texted her that was real mature, along with an eye roll emoji. I can only imagine how much she was losing it on her end because I got a garbled mess of letters for a second, followed by her calling me a POS that thinks I'm better than her. I told her I could care less if I'm better than her because it's not a high bar to get over. She gave me an FU in all caps and like a dozen exclamation points. I pointed out she's just projecting her hate onto me because she knows she screwed up. And if she hates her car so much, maybe she should get an e-bike like her mother did. Right after I texted that, my phone started ringing again. I denied the call. She tried again. I denied it again. I texted her that I was blocking her number now, and if she tries to bother me again, I'll seek legal counsel. Her last reply before I blocked the number was to say that she hopes I fall off my bike and break my neck. It's been a while now, and she's not tried to contact me again by any other means. It's really no surprise she'd blame me for her misery. She just doesn't want to own up to the fact that she's a terrible person. I'm no angel either. Anyone who's read my posts knows that. But I played the good submissive guy to my ex for far too long, and I really don't care to ever speak to her again. Update. This is a follow-up to my original story from last month, and I'm not sure where to begin because of how messed up this has all been. I should probably rewind and explain how things got to this point. So, after Marlon's ex Paige, 29F, broke up with him back in October last year, Paige and I have actually started talking. We have become friends and have started going to the gym together. Paige has also recently started dating a guy from our gym who I'll call Virgil, 33M. Turns out Paige and Virgil happen to have gone to the same high school, although a few years apart. In the 7 months since Paige broke up with Marlon, 31M, he's been slaving away trying to support his freeloading family. He's basically been a wreck without Paige, coupled with the constant belittling he gets from his family, specifically about him not earning enough. He also went on to say that he missed Paige supporting and comforting him, which she'd usually do every time he had a negative interaction with his family. Despite me and our friend group trying to encourage Marlon to just move on from her, Marlon has kept wanting to talk to Paige to try and get her to come back to him. Throughout the 7 months they've been separated, Marlon has tried coming over to Paige's home and parlor to try and talk to her, but she kept shutting him down, and Marlon stopped doing that, at least up until recently, after Paige threatened to call the police and get a restraining order against him if he showed up to her place one more time, unsolicited. Marlon has also complained about not being able to support his family's increasing financial demands, debts, medical bills, and shopping habits. Additionally, Marlon's mom has been badgering him and his brother about her wanting to have grandkids. That said, as some of you have commented in my previous post, yeah, I'm pretty convinced that one reason Marlon wants Paige back, or to a lesser extent be with me, is because he needs someone to help him support his family as well as to serve a buffer between him and them, as well as being like an emotional support person for Marlon himself. In late March, Marlon found out that Paige had a new boyfriend as she's dating Virgil, causing Marlon to panic. He went on a rant saying that he doesn't want to lose Paige, and I reminded him that she already broke up with him, so he and her are done now. Despite this, Marlon did try texting, calling, and messaging Paige repeatedly, even creating new accounts to do so, as he just wants to talk to her and that he believes they can still talk things out, but I told him to stop trying to contact her. I even showed him a video message Paige sent me to show to him in which she explicitly told him to stop contacting her. Fast forward to Saturday, May 17th, I took time off work and was away from home as I went on a date with this guy I met online who I'll call Jack, 55M, as he took me to his cabin up in the mountains for a week. While there, I received a notification that someone was at the door. It was Marlon's parents demanding to speak to Marlon. I'm guessing Marlon was away from home at the time because he clearly didn't answer. So I told them through the doorbell camera that Marlon was probably at work or something and asked what they wanted. Marlon's parents basically went on this rant about how disappointed they are in their son for not earning enough to provide for them, as well as them needing more money to pay for Marlon's mom's legal bills, gambling addiction, and medical bills. Marlon's dad also mentioned that he needs Marlon to sign on to and pay for a Denali pickup truck he wants to buy, as the truck Marlon's dad bought himself just got repoed. Marlon's mom then asked if I was dating or sleeping with Marlon. I told her no, that there is nothing is happening between me and him. Plus, I also mentioned to her that Marlon told me that she didn't want me dating her son because I am too brown for her liking, so that shouldn't be a problem anyway. Marlon's mom then responded, saying that at this point, due to her age and ailing health, she just wants to have grandkids even if they are mixed race. I caught my breath and just reminded her that I'm just Marlon's friend and legally speaking, I am his landlord, so that's it. She then said that if Marlon and I do have SX and if I got pregnant she wants to name our baby, then they left. I was speechless, but also felt weirdly sick from that. On Friday afternoon, as Jack and I were leaving and I turned it back on, had to conserve battery as I didn't bring a charger and wanted to avoid distractions, to find multiple missed calls and messages from Marlon and Tiffany, 30F. Jack dropped me off home, and as I got inside my house, I found Marlon's room completely thrashed, as well as the living room to a lesser extent, and him just sitting there on the couch, looking more miserable than before. I asked what happened, and basically his parents came back over to my place. Marlon opened the door for them, and they basically berated him again for not earning enough money to pay for their medical bills, debts, etc. This basically ended in Marlon agreeing to take out a loan to help finance his family, as well as Marlon and his dad going to a dealership for him to sign on to a truck Marlon's dad wanted. When Marlon got home, got so frustrated that he started smashing up the rooms. I then called back Tiffany, who's a close friend of me, Paige, and Marlon, and asked her to come over. Tiffany and I then talked to Marlon, comforting him but also urging him again to cut off his parents. Tiffany pointed out that before Marlon's parents came here, Marlon was happy, confident, had a happy and stable relationship with Paige, was doing well at his job, but now he's just a mess. I then also told Marlon about the doorbell conversation I had with his mom, and how his parents are now indirectly starting to affect me as well. Marlon apologized and said he'll try to take care of it. Tiffany, who does come from a wealthy family, did offer to pay for Marlon to go to therapy, but Marlon refused, with him saying that he probably just needs to try something else to win over his parents, with Marlon still justifying their action by saying they're misunderstood. I was going to point out that his family seems to have no sense of boundaries, lack basic human decency, and have no self-control, but at this point trying to tell him this right now seemed pointless. Tiffany and I then cleaned up the mess in the living room, while Marlon cleaned up his room. Later last night, I spoke with Tiffany and Paige on what we can do. Paige recommended something about trying to reach out to his other relatives who may be willing to support him. I'm leaning towards evicting Marlon from my family home, but I don't want to do that just yet until we could find somewhere for him to stay. I'll post an update if anything significant changes. Anyway, thank you for watching.